Hello, my name is Voya and welcome to mydeepguide and to finally a review of the Remarkable Paper Pro Move. Now, I've already covered this device in a couple of videos, so I'm just going to give you like a summary here at the beginning of the video, as well as an overview of the device. But I do encourage you to watch also the supplemental videos. There's two essential ones, which is the first impressions and the things that you must know about the Remarkable Paper Pro Move. The second portion of the video is going to be display analysis framework results that I put the devices through, so that we can see how does the actual Remarkable Paper Pro Move device measure up. So, to begin with, if you're watching this video, you already know what Remarkable Paper Pro Move is. It is supposed to be a digital replacement for your portable notebook. Now, this being a Remarkable device, it has the full functionality of any Remarkable device, which means that if you do own another Remarkable device, you can simply connect this one to your account and you will be able to seamlessly switch between one device and another device and basically have a workflow with the larger device, for example, Remarkable 2 or Remarkable Paper Pro, as your stationary or fixed office or desk type of a device, whereas the Paper Pro Move would serve the purpose of, well, as the name says, having access to your notes, documents, and other things on the go. The other purpose of this device, it can serve the purpose of a digital notebook on the go, so basically replacing your Moleskine or something like that. And as such, the 9:16 format that you see here does lend itself really well for that type of purpose, but that format is going to also become a problem for the other aspect of the device, which are the reading aspects. Now, the reader aspects are not really a big problem for 9:16 format in general. The problem arises in the Remarkable platform itself and the lack of formatting capabilities, reflowing PDF files, proper handling of EPUB files, and all of that. When you couple all of that together, a device that basically naturally lends itself to be an absolutely perfect reader on the go, unfortunately isn't that. So, if you are considering to buy the Remarkable Paper Pro primarily as an e-reader, please do watch the other videos that I have so that you can actually see if you are okay and comfortable with the compromises that you will absolutely need to be okay with if you want to use the Remarkable Paper Pro Move as an e-reader. As a note-taking device, or basically as a portable digital notebook, this is where this device completely excels. Now, it being a Remarkable Paper Pro, it is a color display. This is Remarkable's improvement or take on the Gallery Tree display. Basically, it's the best that is currently available and the best that anyone was able to actually extract from the Gallery Tree panel. What's the difference between a traditional Kaleido 3 panel or a gallery panel? Well, in short, Kaleido 3 panel is cheating. It's a monochromatic display with only black and white cells with a color CFA filter applied on top to basically simply mimic colors. That is not true here. This one is a true color display because it contains 4 types of color e-ink particles: cyan, magenta, yellow, and white particles. Unfortunately, there are no black particles, so the rendering of the black color on the Remarkable Paper Pro and the Paper Pro Move as well is never going to be true black, because the way it produces black is it bunches up all of the 3 color particles together and tries to produce as dark of a blue as it possibly can, but it will never be true black. That being said, the display quality and the color type of quality that you can expect from a device like this basically resembles like a really nice printed page in a magazine or a newspaper. It's a lovely format to consume color content on, but again here there's a bit of a problem because while this framing actually works and it looks really pretty when it fills the full screen, right? That's cheating. That's how the full page should be, but yeah, due to the format it's not. So I'm doing a vertical fit just so I can show you how the optimal conditions and viewing conditions, should you maybe have a document of this format, what you can actually hope for, because it really does look very, very pretty. Like the Paper Pro Move comes with an active stylus. So this is their new active pen, which offers extremely fast writing latency of around between 10 and 14 milliseconds. This is the premium pen, and you also have the basic marker. The premium marker doesn't have any buttons or anything like that, but it does have an eraser on the back, and you do have these harder nibs that are bespoke to this pen by Remarkable, and they do spend rather quickly. So they do feel really nice, but they will spend quickly, and they are not cheap, and you can only buy them from Remarkable for as long as they supply them. But Remarkable has a good track record of supporting their devices for a long time, and they're a stable company, so that shouldn't be a problem, but it is an expense. The pen itself is active and magnetic. It snaps onto the device very nicely, holds the device. Yeah, it can even hold the device properly. The magnetic orientations are really properly done, so you don't have to aim or anything like that. They just kind of pull the pen there, and it all works well. Unfortunately, this is the same pen that you get with the Remarkable Paper Pro, and while it works on Remarkable Paper Pro very nicely, the problem here is that it's enormous for this small device. Both the thickness and especially the length. And that affects handling of the device, especially a small device like this. If I hold it in my hand like this, from this side, it's fine. But as soon as I kind of hold it here, the pen does interfere. And it does interfere in a very real way. And this is a real thing that did bother me when I was using this one. It's not a deal breaker, but it's not ideal. And when we're talking about such a small device, such a limited device that costs as much as this whole thing costs, well, then small things become important ones as well, because it's okay to price something really high, but then it needs to really deliver as well, which is not the case. And considering that you're forced to actually buy, the only way that you can buy this one is bundled with one of the pens, not to have a dedicated pen that's shorter, thinner, and more bespoke to this format, it just feels wrong and kind of smacked and pushed onto the user that you're forced to use something that's not bespoke to a device like this that costs as much as it does cost. You also should be aware of, if you're new to the Remarkable ecosystem, is that it does have a subscription that's not obligatory, but you might want to actually have that subscription at $2.99 a month. And what that gives you is basically any type of services that are server related. That's what's covered via the Connect subscription. It does make sense to have that. However, there are certain functionalities that are being somewhat artificially paywalled and labeled, kind of forced to work through the servers even when they don't have to. And the newest one, for example, is the handwriting recognition. Even though the handwriting recognition functions by using the basic OCR character recognition, so no LM models, no AI or anything like that, it doesn't require a server. It can be handled absolutely locally by this device. Unfortunately, Remarkable decided to handle that through the servers, and therefore it's a Connect subscription functionality only. If you're new to the Remarkable platform and you're kind of considering this one, I do wholeheartedly recommend that you do read through the documents for the Connect subscription, because it's not really as standard as you might think. And if you're considering this, it's a very high likelihood that you would want to have that subscription, which amounts to around $36 a year. Not catastrophic, but not negligible, and something that you do have to keep in mind. Especially because once you become accustomed to and your content becomes reliant on some of the subscription services, well, what happens when the services prices go up? Well, then you're kind of stuck. So that's something to definitely keep in mind. How is it like for writing? Well, it's really good, but it's not great. So let's start with the essentials. The writing performance is absolutely excellent. From the surface, the raspiness of the surface, the reflectivity of the surface, the latency, and all of that kind of stuff, really, really good. Where it's not that great is from the physical aspects, it's a little bit too thick. And that thickness, although it's absolutely beautifully made, on a small device like this, left-handed or right-handed, if you're writing in a portrait format, and let's face it, it's something that you will want to do, your palm is going to rest upon this edge most of the time. That was not true with Remarkable 1, it was not true with Remarkable 2 or Remarkable Paper Pro. It's a very important consideration here with the Remarkable Paper Pro Move. So it's the very first time that the Remarkable device is actually not that physically comfortable to write on for an extended period of time because of that format. The contrast calibration is the way it is. What does that mean? You have zero control over how the content will be rendered on this platform. Remarkable is the one who decides that for you. And if what they decide and what they calibrate is not something that you agree with, there's nothing much that you can do about it. That's just the way it is. So lack of customization and lack of control is a problem. Why? Well, because that calibration is not that good. And it's not that good to a degree where the built-in templates on this device can actually sometimes be very, very difficult to see due to the nature of the granularity of the display, the non-whiteness of the display, and the paleness of the contrast, both of the display and both of the calibration of the system itself. So I find myself actually quite often having the difficulties to use the built-in lined templates simply because those lines can become very much invisible. Now, what you can do about that is you can turn on the front light because, like Paper Pro, this one is equipped with a front light. And right at the get-go, you do have a setting like enable high intensity front light on or off. Just enable that on so that you can have a full range of the front light. The default range is just kind of meaningless. So this way you have a proper range of the front light. And the front light is very nice and it does actually help the rendering of colors, but it also helps visibility of those thinner lines. So that means that even though you're in lighting conditions that are fine and you don't actually need the front light to use it normally, because of the rendering aspects of the device, how it's calibrated, I found myself in a need to use the front light even in well-lit conditions on this device just so that I can actually see thinner template lines in notebooks. That's not ideal. Naturally, you can write in colors and you have really good brushes. One of the big advantages of the Remarkable platform is the excellent state of brushes. And one of the really important selling points, if that's what you're looking for, is that Remarkable Paper Pro and the Paper Pro Move, because they use a true color e-paper or screen with true color e-ink particles. That technology allows for color blending, and you cannot do that on a Kaleido screen or anything like that. You can actually do that only on these devices, and they do have a blender brush, dedicated brush for such things. If you're interested to learn more about that, because it's exactly the same technology, I invite you to watch my Remarkable Paper Pro in-depth review, where I show all of those aspects and functionalities in depth. Definitely check that video out as well as a supplementary type of content, because I don't want to repeat myself all of the time, and essentially it all works exactly the same. It's just this time it's much smaller. So Remarkable Paper Pro Move for sketching, writing, doodling, taking notes or anything like that in a coffee shop, on a meeting, when you're going from an office to an office, or on the outdoors and everything like that. It's really an excellent idea and a concept that most of the times will work, but not really all of the times. And the problem comes here with the format itself. First of all, it's a little bit too tall, and that may be a problem in the summertime and stuff, but I always, for example, carry a pouch of some sort and it fits comfortably into any kind of bag or a pouch. So for me personally, I don't really see that as a problem, but some users have reported that for their use case scenarios, it is simply too tall of a format to be truly a portable device. My bigger gripe with the portability aspects of the Remarkable Paper Pro Move come in two forms. Number one is it is not IP certified, so it's not splash proof, it's not rain proof, it's not waterproof, it's no H2O proof of any kind. That's kind of a scary proposition, especially for a device that costs that much. The second part, which is also really scary, is that this technology is essentially very, very fragile. I'm thinking about the screen itself. Now, Remarkable themselves told me, hey, don't worry, this has been drop tested, but they haven't really specified what were the results and what kind of drop testing was done. I do find it a little bit difficult to trust what Remarkable says about their devices, because they've also said that the battery life on this one is 2 weeks, and it's simply not. I mean, with normal use, what you're going to be using this device for, it's going to be about 1 to 3 days. If they said that it's 2 weeks, and when you start using it, it's not really even close to 2 weeks, I have to be kind of careful and take it with a really, really big grain of salt when they say like, hey, it's been drop tested, but they don't show it, as Supernote, for example, did when they were throwing their devices as frisbees outdoors and picking them up in a single shot so that you can see that actually nothing happens and they work. That's not the case here. For a very expensive device like this one, it's metal all around, glass on front. So you have a fragile, not that flexible, portable device that's not waterproof or anything like that. I don't know about you, but having this device in my pocket or in the pouch, I would be conscious of having it and very, very mindful of not actually causing damage to it. So I wish that it was actually made a little bit more in line with the portability and the ruggedness. Don't get me wrong, it's absolutely beautifully built. Really, really gorgeous object to interact with and to use, but it doesn't give me an impression of a rugged or a particularly resilient type of a design. Well, talking about design, well, it's the exact same type of device as a Remarkable Paper Pro, just scaled down, and everything's done absolutely wonderfully. One major difference is that this time the back is plastic, unlike a unibody metal that we had on Remarkable Paper Pro, and that not only makes it lighter and a little bit more flexible, just a little bit more flexible, because it will allow for the battery to kind of expand in two ways should it go bad. So it can now press against the back here as well, not only against the screen. So that gives you a little bit more chances should the battery go bad, that the screen might survive. But most importantly, it's repairability of the device and future proof of device. And as a concept, the Remarkable Paper Pro Move is now by a serviceable technician. It can be opened from the screen and from the back side as well, which means refurbishing of these devices is going to be cheaper. And on the long run, that is a good thing to have for devices like this. So that's a general overview of the device itself. Now let's head on over to the DAF or Display Analysis Framework results. So let's start with the readability for the Paper Pro Move, and with the standard fonts at 100% blackness, we can see that despite its really, really small size and kind of granular nature of the canvas display, the readability is actually quite okay on the 16-point and the 10-point font sizes. Truth be told, even at 6-point, even though it's really, really granular, I think that what Paper Pro Move is managing to get out of it is really, really good, but you can clearly see the degradation where we've reached the limits of what this display is capable of clearly displaying, and the dollar sign and the A, even in the best conditions at this size, it's simply not gonna work. This is going to kind of become a little bit better when we lower the blackness to 70%, and this just talks to the calibration of the display, how the characters and content is rendered on the Remarkable, and would have been better if the Remarkable as a platform would offer more control for contrast. When we actually go down with the standard fonts to the 50% of blackness, then we can see that the dithering that the Remarkable engine is employing to render transparency, it's cheating. I guess to kind of improve the speed because it's halving the resolution as well. But that has a dramatically negative effect here. Now the scores are going to be wrong here simply because I have this line that has crept into the frame of the measurement. So I have to kind of recrop it and remeasure it to get the correct numbers themselves, and see that because that is now throwing off the calculations. But you can clearly see that at 6 points, standard fonts at 50%, this is not something that can be deemed legible. Similar story continues with the thin fonts here, and we do have okay readability at 16 points, but you can see that even at 100% and the largest font size, we have some of the vertical lines are basically disappearing and the content is not being properly rescaled and rendered. We have that even more prominent on the 10 points, and when we go down to 6-point font with the thin font, it's back to illegible. It's simply below the threshold of what this panel can do. And when we go to thin fonts at 50% the thickness, the dithering in combination with the display limitations, I mean, realistically, this type of font is only barely legible at 16 points, and at 10 points and at 6 points, it's completely illegible. This is not something that you can actually read. Thick fonts are again exposing the problem of the contrast calibration on the Remarkable and the limitations of the canvas display, where only the 16-point fonts are fully readable, to be quite honest. But as soon as we go down to 10 points, you see the B is now, and the G, the holes are completely filled in, the O is completely filled in. We only know that this is W because we can infer, but realistically, you don't really know what's that. This one is, the D is totally filled in, M is a blob, A is filled in a blob. So it's starting to become more of a blob here, and then it becomes completely just blobby kind of content on 6 points. So it's something that this display and this size cannot do. And when we step down to thickness 50%, the dithering, it just introduces a bigger problem, because now we have both the blobbiness and less readability of that kind of line. And again, only 16 points can be, if you're very, very gracious, be deemed readable. The rest is not readable. Moving on to the contrast and uniformity portion of the test. It's a twofold test with the display test measuring the display quality and uniformity under carefully calibrated settings of the camera, that it does a shutter compensation for equalizing between excellent, average, and poor lighting conditions as good as possible. This test usually exposes issues with uniformity of displays, and we can see that the rendering is okay across the board for both white and black, but in the black content we do have quite a lot of noise and a lot of granularity. So this is something that canvas display simply suffers from, and we can see that granularity both in the white and in the black content. When we move over to the observable portion of the test, it's the same type of test measuring the blackness and whiteness in excellent, average, and poor lighting conditions, but this time the shutter speed of the camera is adjusted to mimic as closely as possible what the human eye will observe in these lighting conditions. And we can see how the darkness actually falls off, and the white content is rendered quite gray and dark in poor lighting conditions, but it's actually acceptable. It's not great, but it's acceptable in average lighting conditions, with the black content naturally becoming more darker. But even in poor lighting conditions, that granularity does not offer uniform black type of content. Now we have the same type of thing, but with the front light. So we have display, contrast, and uniformity with the front light set at 50%. With the observable, it doesn't really wash it out that much, and it does help bring out the rendering of the whiteness in poor lighting conditions a bit darker, but almost match the rendering of the white in the average lighting conditions. And when we go with the front light, it's set to 100%, and the front light is set to high intensity mode here. So this is the maximum that the device is capable of reproducing. And when we go to observable, we actually see the close matching of the whiteness, and even blackness is kind of matching in poor and average lighting conditions, which is a good thing to see. Next is color accuracy rendering, and here I render a pure red, pure green, and pure blue color content. And gallery panel is not an RGB panel, it's a SMID, cyan, yellow, magenta, and white ink particles. And I've heard comments saying like, oh, to make it more fair, you should actually display cyan, magenta, and yellow, but that doesn't make any sense because, you know, all of the printing presses in professional printing is done in SMIC standard, yet a good printer is able to reproduce a really good red, a really good green, and a really good blue color using SMIC toners. So the same applies here as well. If Remarkable decided to use the technology that uses SMID type of ink particles, it needs to be able to display all of the colors accurately, and that includes red, green, and blue. There is no reason why a Remarkable device or any device needs to be handled with kid gloves or get a special treatment. Everybody gets an equal treatment, everybody gets an equal test. The result is that the red is okay-ish, with the blue being best rendered, same as we had on the Paper Pro as well, and the greens being really a sore point for accurate color rendering for this panel. It just is not able to do a green color in a good way. This is helped a little bit with adding the front light. So you can see as we add the front light from 0 to 50, that green is starting to pop up a little bit more. The blue is starting to get washed up a little bit, but the red is also helped a little bit with the front light. And when we actually go to front light 100, there's really not that much difference between the two. So you're going to have the benefit up to 50%. Above from 50%, it's just going to spend your battery a little bit more. But you do get a little bit better color rendering if you do use the front light on the Remarkable Paper Pro and on the Remarkable Paper Pro Move. Next is ghosting, and we have ghosting performance for text content, graphics content, and combined content. And the way I run the test is I start with the blank page, fully refreshed. This is done by closing and opening a document on a device like Remarkable, because it performs a full refresh when you open a new document. And then I flip 15 pages of content and end up on an empty page, and then measure out the difference between the first and the last blank pages. And you can see that with the text we clearly do have some ghosting going on, but it's manageable. It's kind of okay at 0.22. On the graphic side of things and content, it is performing much better at only 0.166, and that means that when you actually combine the two and you have combined content of text and graphics, it is able to clear out automatically quite well. And this is the contrast set to automatic on Remarkable, so it's just doing its own thing, as it deems it appropriate, and it yields really good results at 0.149 for combined ghosting. Reflectivity is performing extremely well, same as on Remarkable Paper Pro, and it's not really a surprise simply because it's using pretty much almost exactly the same type of a glass surface that Remarkable Paper Pro uses, so we have the same excellent type of reflectivity performance both in intensity and in sharpness for the Remarkable Paper Pro Move. This remains true for the surface roughness curve and the profile curve as well. Again, the same type of surface, and we have the same excellent type of results with the roughness coefficient at 1.259, which is really good. For reference point, piece of paper is at around 2.1, 2.2, and much more importantly, the valleys are nice and kind of dull with the sharp peaks around here. The frequency between peaks is a little bit more kind of dense than it is on the Remarkable Paper Pro, but you don't really feel it that much because it still offers enough kind of a difference here for the tip of the pen to kind of dip below these and actually feel these peaks going up and down, giving you a nice type of a writing feel. Writing latency on Remarkable Paper Pro Move remains really, really impressive, and in this particular case it measured 12.51 milliseconds, but we'll see later on in the results what the average actually is. But this is in line with what we've seen on the Remarkable Paper Pro, if not even a smidge quicker. Consistency and just how closely that written line is trailing behind the pen itself. Refresh time is really, really long on both of these devices, but I think that it might be a smidge faster, or maybe a smidge faster than what we've had on a Remarkable Paper Pro, because I think that one actually broke the 800 millisecond limit, and this one is under 800 milliseconds. But it doesn't really matter, because if you go down to here and you see like just how long it takes to refresh all of this and how blinky it is and all of the things that it does, this is simply the nature of the gallery canvas display, and there's nothing they can do about it. This is as quick as they can get it, and that is one of the major issues with both Remarkable Paper Pro and the Paper Pro Move as well. It's going to be slow, it's going to be blinky, no way around it. Alright, so let's compare the results on the DAF comparison tool. Still not public, still some tweaking left to do, but we can compare the results between Remarkable Paper Pro in blue and the Paper Pro Move here. Please do keep in mind that the readability results are not going to be correct here, so I'm going to skip them simply because of what I've mentioned before, and that is that rogue line from the frame jumped into the frame, and it's always measuring really good readability because it's really visible and really straight. I fixed the images, and these are the correct readability results for the Remarkable Paper Pro Move, and as you can see, across the board, the readability is way lower than on a Remarkable Paper Pro, as expected. Contrast and uniformity, interestingly, is actually across the board better than it is on the Remarkable Paper Pro, and this is something that does reflect what the Remarkable team has been telling me, is that they've been kind of working with the display. It has a little bit more density, and that will definitely improve the rendering of the black color, which in turn will increase the contrast and the overall uniformity as well. So we can definitely see that there is a bit of a difference in favor of Paper Pro Move when compared to the Paper Pro in contrast and uniformity. Color accuracy is similar, but across the board a little bit worse. Basically, almost everywhere except in the green. I mean, the rendering of the green is even worse, ever so slightly, on the Remarkable Paper Pro. But you can see that the red is a little bit worse on the Move, and the blue as well is a little bit worse on the Move. Reflectivity results are actually quite interesting because they average out at almost the same for both of them, with intensity being a little bit worse on the Remarkable Paper Pro Move, but the sharpness it's actually even more dull, which ends up with them kind of averaging out. But in reality, it kind of reflects what I've seen and been able to observe, which is, to me, it seemed when I looked back to back both of these devices that Paper Pro Move kind of performed ever so slightly better in reflectivity, and it's interesting to see that it's actually the sharpness that I was reacting to and not so much the intensity. Ghosting performance is, absolutely within the margin of error, so same type of display technology, same type of results here. Front light is basically identical on both of them. You can see that the intensity levels are extremely similar between them at 30%, 50%, 75 and 100% intensity levels. What's interesting to see is that the front light has been calibrated to be 150-ish kelvins colder than on the Remarkable Paper Pro. It's not something that I've consciously observed, but it's interesting to actually see this as a measured result. Surface roughness, ever so slightly rougher actually than on the Remarkable Paper Pro, but for all intents and purposes, the writing feel and the surface roughness definitely of the same type of character and of the same type of feel between both of these. Refresh time, yeah, so it was better, slightly better between these two horribly performing and slow and blinky devices, while the Remarkable Paper Pro Move is ever so slightly less terrible than the Remarkable Paper Pro. And it's interesting to see that Remarkable Paper Pro actually averages out at 1251 milliseconds, which is really fast over the 14.6 milliseconds from the Remarkable Paper Pro. Both are blisteringly fast, but the Paper Pro Move even faster. Surface distance is pretty much exactly the same, which is what I was expecting to see. And the battery life, well, this is where things get a little bit kind of, yeah, as expected, but problematic for Remarkable Paper Pro Move, because while the battery life on the Remarkable Paper Pro was not something that's like absolutely fantastic and amazing, you can see the reading results with the front light turned off, front light at average, which is 50%, and front light at full. Both of these front light is set at high intensity option on the Remarkable. And the reading test is done by continuously flipping pages every 20 seconds for an hour in all of these modes, and then averaging out and seeing how many hours per charge would you be able to get. You can see that there's an enormous difference between the Paper Pro Move and the Paper Pro, which is logical, much smaller battery, but we have 6.25 hours with the front light off. So that's like the best possible results that you're gonna get with the Remarkable Paper Pro Move is 6.25 hours of continuous reading time per charge. And then it just drops off to 5.88 and 5.55 as you increase the front light. And the same story continues with the writing, where I write continuously for half an hour in these conditions, front light off, front light 50% or average, and front light full. And you can see that we had 12 hours of estimated continuous writing time per charge on Remarkable Paper Pro, down to only 4.76 hours with the front light off, 4.16, and actually under 4 hours at 3.71 hours per charge with the front light set to full. Albeit you will never use the device in these settings, but you will be using it in the average mode. This is something that you probably will be using it, and then we're looking at really low numbers here for the battery life for the Paper Pro Move, which is not good. And definitely really far off from what Remarkable claims as a 2-week battery life. 2 weeks of doing what exactly? Because yes, it can do 2 weeks of standby, but any kind of operations here? Nah. It just simply can't. I can show the final DAF results here, but they really don't matter that much because they are going to be fairly similar between these two devices because they are representing fairly similar devices. But most importantly is the readability. Readability plays a really high role in the score of the DAF results, and those scores are off. So at some point when I actually fix this and rerun the tests so that they're more accurate, I don't think it's going to be a lot lower than this number, simply because it has better contrast, a little bit better writing latency, better reflectivity and all that kind of stuff, but the readability part is dramatically worse. And in the DAF results, interestingly, it didn't actually push it well below 5411. It did get it much closer to 54, so that's kind of surprising to see as an overall result. But yeah, this is much more in line with what we've seen and what is observable from the test data gathered. So now that we have the subjective and the objective part of the equation in place, I'm just going to give you my final impressions of this device. I've been living with it now for a little over a month, and I've been trying to actively use it almost on a daily basis in some capacity or another. I can tell you immediately, as I've said before, as an e-reader, I cannot get along with it. But even if the formatting was fine, as you've seen from the readability results, there's a fundamental problem with the size and the rendering quality that this display is capable of producing. It's simply not crisp enough to offer comfortable reading results on such a small format. That's for me because I mostly use documents. If you mostly use EPUBs, then you won't have that problem because you will be able to rescale the fonts, but you will also need to wait a considerable amount of time for the EPUB resizing because the EPUB software on Remarkable is trash, and it has been for 7 years without a semblance of willingness from Remarkable to actually address that in one way or another. It can actually function as a picture frame as well, quite nicely, but that would be a very expensive picture frame. Now, for me, the primary purpose was jotting down ideas and writing on it, which, in all honesty, that's what it was made for. And here's the thing about it. It can have positives, it can have negatives and all that kind of stuff. But the most important aspect is that overall, there's something about this format and this whole thing that communicates in a really nice and meaningful way when you write on it. And unlike many devices that I've used, this one invites me to use it again and again and again and again. And not only does it invite me to use it again, but this is like putting it into an even smaller kind of percentage of devices that are able to do that. This one inspired me to write things that normally I don't find myself writing or thinking in a certain way. So I have no idea what the magic formula is in here, nor what the concrete aspects are that have such an effect on me. But I've been using these devices like dozens and dozens, maybe even in 100, I don't know, but for well over 7 years now. And I can honestly say that there's barely a handful of devices that have had such an effect on me. This is one of the rare devices that does actually inspire me to write on it creatively. So creative writing, just novels or anything like that. Can you actually put a price on that? That's the thing that I was struggling with. Objectively, this is ridiculously overpriced, and there's no justification for the price of this device considering its limitations and all of that. 100% I stand behind it and I agree. But, and this is an enormous, gigantic but, if it does get you in these very specific ways that this device can, and it can get you, I don't think that there's a price that you can put on something that inspires you, something that moves you, and something that, yeah, keeps you productive and moving forward and creative on a day-to-day basis. Yeah, the battery is gonna run out, but you're gonna plug it in, you're gonna charge it, you're gonna continue using it. As long as you keep it away from water and you don't break it, and if you do fall into that very narrow niche specialist category where this device says like, come to me, I've been waiting for ya. Yeah, you're gonna be a very happy puppy, and there's a handful, or if any, devices on the market that can actually kind of replace this or compete with this one. But as a general kind of thing, if you're just simply interested in a portable overall kind of thing, it's not going to do the job at all. It's a very specialized device, and even in a specialization, it's a specialist within that. It basically has a PhD in being creative in communicating with you if the stars align and if you know everything's aligned, then it's fantastic. The benefit here is that you do have an open shop with Remarkable, and the only way to truly understand and see, to test like, do I mesh well with this device or not, is to try it and use it and see for yourself. There's nothing anyone can tell you, and if they are telling you like, oh, this is a device for you or this is not a device for you, they're talking rubbish, because that's just simply not true. The only way that you can do it is to get it, use it for a couple of weeks, like maybe 2 weeks or so, and then see for yourself, do I have that special connection with this device or not? Because it makes sense only and only if you have that special connection with it. Well, that's it from me. I hope that you liked the video. If you did, please like and subscribe and ding the notification bell in the description below to get notified when new videos come out on my deep guide. Also, do let me know in the comments down below what are your thoughts about this device. This is not an everyday device, and it's been a difficult one to actually kind of pin down and understand fully, and that's why it took a long time, because I wanted to be fair towards the device and towards you guys so that I can provide with useful information, something that you can properly kind of rely on. I hope that I managed to do that in this and the previous videos before. There's going to be a couple of more videos as well. I'm going to pit it against the SuperNote Nomad as well so that we can see how it functions, and I'm going to be covering in-depth and comparison showing how it works between the normal or large format Remarkable and the Remarkable Paper Pro Move, the client, the app, and all of that kind of stuff, so that you have a more complete picture and understanding of where it fits and does it fit into your regular daily workflow. Thank you so much for watching, stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video. Bye!